What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on some comments that Stephen A. Smith recently made about Jimmy Butler. Right. As you know, Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors got knocked out of the playoffs by the Houston Rockets, and so now that Jimmy Butler and the and the Golden State Warriors are out of there, man, Stephen A. Smith and some other guy, also Jay Williams, they just taking it upon themselves to go after Jimmy Butler. And so on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith he said that all they needed. Well, first of all, he said that Jimmy Butler forced his way out of Miami, which he did. And Jimmy Butler got his money, which he did. And they said that that Jimmy Butler did not want to be a number one. He wanted to be a number two. And so to me, I thought that was, Jimmy Butler being a number two. I think Jimmy Butler is a number two. He knows, just like everybody else, that he's not a number one. I thought that when he first got to Golden State, I thought that what he was doing on the court was good. I thought it meshed with what the Golden State Warriors were trying to do and what they needed. But once Steph Curry got hurt, I thought that basically Golden State Warriors was going to have to play one damn near perfect game in order for them to extend that series to give Steph Curry a chance to come back. Other than that, I didn't think that they had much of a chance. Because number one, Jimmy Butler is not a number one. He wasn't going to be able to carry them because Jimmy Butler is not that guy as far as to carry a team. It just would have been hard for, especially at his age now. That's part of the reason why Pat Riley in Miami didn't want to pay Jimmy Butler the money that he was asking for, because he knows that, he get to see Jimmy Butler, on a regular basis when he was there. He knew that Jimmy Butler was getting up there in age and that he wasn't going to be able to perform up to the level that they needed him to. And so maybe he felt like that money could be invested, better spent somewhere else. So now he comes to Golden State. Golden State knows exactly what they are, they know what they're getting. And they basically, they just put everything into this season. It was just, they was like, all right, Steph Curry and Draymond is getting old. Let's make a run at it. And under if everything had stayed, if nobody had got hurt, I think it would have been a great situation for all involved. But Jimmy Butler just was not that guy that could, in my opinion, that was going to be able to carry the Golden State Warriors, especially at this point in his career. But Golden State picked him up because they knew what they was getting. It wasn't like he sold them a bill of goods. He's always let it be known that he thought that he was a number two. He's a very physical player and a high energy type player. So, and that's the role he played, but he was never the guy that was going to carry Golden State. And so with that being said, let me get to Stephen A. Smith's his comments about Jimmy Butler, and also I think who else I got on here? I got Udonis Haslem. He's on here too also. And so I want you to hear his comments about Jimmy Butler and who Jimmy Butler is. And so here we go.
11 shot attempts last night, 20 shot attempts over the last two games.
I think then, therefore, doesn't this not live up to the expectation?
I'm saying that was the original expectation.
Okay.
What we saw.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. What we saw.
Got it. Okay.
The other stuff when they were successful is what we didn't expect.
Correct.
Last night was more of what we expected.
You didn't expect.
No, and let me stop right there, right? So he's saying that they expected Jimmy Butler to not be very good at Golden State, but then when it turned out like earlier in the season when they had some success, that's what they didn't expect from Jimmy Butler. And in my videos, I said that even before Jimmy Butler went to Golden State, I said Jimmy Butler would be a perfect fit for Golden State. Mid-range, he's a mid-range ball player, shoot that mid-range shot, goes to the rim. He gets free throws, but he draw fouls and stuff like that. That's exactly what Steph Curry need. But again, and that's why sometimes with these announcers or these, I don't know what they call themselves, but these people, like Stephen A. Smith, they don't always get it right. Sometimes, I don't see what they be looking at when they looking at these games. But let me go to now. This is Monica McNutt. Let me see what she's her comments are.
Right. Got it. Copy.
From this standpoint alone, last year they were in 10th. They didn't make the playoffs. This year they started off in 10th when they got Jimmy. They made the playoffs. I would say it worked out from that perspective. But what I'm going to say about Jimmy is, as great as Jimmy is, the playoff Jimmy thing has put Jimmy Butler in a conversation with guys that maybe are a little bit above Jimmy Butler. And sometimes the expectations of Jimmy Butler are the playoff Jimmy Butler expectations all the time. And that might not necessarily be who Jimmy Butler is. Jimmy Butler is a very talented basketball player, but he'll tell you, I'm not the most talented. I'm not the fastest. He is a smart guy. He preys on weaknesses and mistakes. We got to give credit where credit's due to Minnesota. McDaniels was on him. Ant-Man was on him. Randall was on him. He's not a shooter. He needs to get in the paint. When you get in the paint, we have the #1 shot blocker and rim protector on him. I think Jimmy Butler gave what he gave, but Jimmy Butler didn't have any more to give against that team. And that's where you see the differences between other guys and Jimmy. Because I've seen guys guard LeBron, and no matter what you do, he gets his. I've seen guys guard D-Wade. No matter what you do, he gets his. Jason Tatum, he gets his. Jaylen Brown, he gets his. Those guys get theirs no matter what you do. Jimmy Butler's not that unstoppable guy like those guys.
Okay.
And I agree with that. That's Udonis Haslam, right? And I definitely agree with that. I think that Jimmy Butler is a player, in my opinion, who just made he just maximized his abilities. I don't think that he's not Dwayne Wade. He's not LeBron James, and so and certain points in his career, I think Jimmy Butler kind of he like kind of played above himself. And so then that's when they came up with that name Playoff Jimmy. But Jimmy Butler didn't lie to people or try to mislead people about who he was. Like Udonis Haslam just said, Jimmy Butler is a mid-range type ball player. You know what I mean? So he need to get to that wing and draw fouls. But then when you have the guy, what's his name? Rudy Gobert was in that paint. That that kind of throws his game off because you got the shot blocker in there. Then you have Anthony Edwards, and so it was just an uphill battle for Jimmy Butler. Not making no excuses, that's just the way it is. It was an uphill battle for Jimmy Butler, and he's he's up in age. It would have taken now I can see maybe 3 or 4 years ago if Jimmy Butler was in this position. I think he'd have gave them a better game, but Jimmy Butler got a lot of miles on him. And so for Stephen A. Smith to say that, he's not what he's a fraud, or he's not what he he presents himself, I don't think that's I don't think that's true. I think Jimmy Butler, everybody know exactly who Jimmy Butler is. And then so as a coach and a team, I thought that Golden State Warriors knew who Jimmy was. And like I said, he fit them, but he fit them under that perfect situation. You needed Steph there, to spread the floor and create a certain situation for Jimmy. And you needed Jimmy there to create a certain situation for Steph. That's just like if Jimmy Butler had got hurt and Steph Curry would have been there, then it would have been the same situation. Like Steph Curry would not have been able to get the Golden State Warriors past the Dallas, get past Minnesota Timberwolves without Jimmy Butler. And that's because number one, those guys just create opportunities and they just create a situation for each other that both players needed. And then so once Steph Curry went down, I knew it was going to be, and I was picking Golden State, but I was picking them, like I said, I said if everybody stays healthy, I like Golden State, to come out of this West. And that was a big stretch. I know it was a big stretch, especially with, they had to go up against, probably who they got. They would have had to go up against probably either Denver or OKC. Was looking like they probably would have had to go up against OKC because OKC is going to play Minnesota now. But yeah, I don't think Jimmy Butler is a fraud. He's definitely not a fraud. He just told people who he was. He did what he said he was going to do, and he just was outmatched. In this series, he's an older guy, and so it is what it is. I disagree with Stephen A. Smith. I thought Udonis Haslam, he said it right, man. Jimmy Butler is a very intelligent ball player. He know when to pick and choose his spots, and then but he had his spots against Minnesota was far and few between. And so that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.